So, Bret, I got a question for you, just going off the back of this. Do you feel that you were able to stay mainly craft focused when you were playing at the NFL? And if so, what kind of practices or tools or tips helped you stay craft focused rather than overly indexing on the perception of others when you're basically a demigod within the NFL or perceived as that?
Yeah, you want to think you are, but you get there and you realize that you're replaceable very quickly. And so you start to understand that, my last practice, my last game is only, a reflection of how good I was. And so you start to fixate on maintaining this level of peak performance day in and day out. I remember when I was, when I first got into the league and I was playing on the Patriots, and it'd be like a Tuesday or off day, and I come into the facility to, get some ice and stim and, just take care of my body. And I would see players in the dome, and coaches actually running these players through drills as if they were going to sign them, right? And so every week in the NFL, they're bringing players in to see if they can outperform players that are already there. And so it's this constant shuffling of peak performance, right? And it's like you being, in your field, and every single week you have, your employer brings somebody in to see if they can replace you based on abilities, right? It's absolutely terrible. And so you understand that, one, you have to have the mentality that I'm better than everybody else, even if you aren't. And I know that's, we talk about ego, and that's sometimes why athletes, and I think a lot of times why athletes fail when they go into their next venture, because they say, well, I was great at this one thing, I should be great at everything else, when that's not the case, right? We're talking about skills, right? The second thing that you start to realize is I have to start developing a competitive edge. I need to start understanding what can I do differently than everybody else to stay in this game. And when you look at what I was doing, I was constantly taking care of my body, constantly getting massages. I was getting 3 massages a week at one point to make sure that I could sustain, the level of impact when you're taking these shots in the game. And so you quickly realize that it's all about, everything is about how good you are every single day you show up. And it's not about necessarily getting, 2 or 3 or 4% better. It's about getting, a 0.1% better, or a 0.5% better, right? Because you understand that there's nothing that you can do outside of control everything that you can control. And that's the main thing, I think, when you're looking at top performers, is they focus on what they can control and they eliminate everything else.
Kind of bring it just down to the small window of
I can't control whether coach decides to put this guy in instead of me. That has nothing to do with me, right? Dave, for instance, I'll give you a perfect example. When I was on the Jets my last year, they drafted a guy in the second round. I don't know what his signing bonus was. It was probably $500,000 or somewhere upwards of that, right? They put him in, even though he would mess up day in and day out. They would consistently put him in because they wanted him to play, because they had already paid for this guy to play. And so if I sit there and worry about, hey, they keep putting this guy in, I'm better than him, I know I'm better than him, but I'm not getting the playing time. Now it's almost like you self-sabotage yourself, right? Because you get this dialogue in your head of, hey, am I good enough? Hey, why am I not getting a chance? And so it becomes, oh, woe is me, instead of focusing on what you can control, which is the rep when you get in practice and in the game.
So the risk of replacement caused a lack of being craft focused in a certain sense, which can then actually make itself a self-fulfilling prophecy, obviously, it sounds like.
Exactly.
That's super interesting. Any comments on that, Andrew? I got a question for you if not, but
yeah, a couple things. I mean, I think that's great. I'm taking mental notes here as Bret's talking. I think, science is weird in that it's sort of like pinball. You never really win. You're just trying to keep going. There's no end goal. You eventually retire. I learned a long time ago that no grant money, no science, no nothing. It doesn't matter if you have tenure or anything. A lot of people don't realize this. So it's a pretty brutal career. The funding lines they never change. They never get much better. And they're only the top, 25, 30% of grants are going to go through. And so what you realize pretty quickly is that you're always on the chopping block. Maybe not to the same extent that Bret was talking about, that it's on a longer time cycle. But the way to deal with this, I think there are 2 things. One is people have been asking a lot in the questions about how do you develop that focus. And one thing that I've been talking about a lot lately, and I think still works, is I've been training for years, is you can use your visual focus to guide your cognitive focus. And so how do you do this? Well, when I was a student, I would just sit there, and my so-called meditation was, how long can I maintain a fixed gaze, allowing blinking on a crosshatch across the room? Where's my break point? And trying to extend that a few minutes each day. I mean, the brain follows visual focus because those two things in front of your face are your eyes are actually two pieces of brain. They're not connected to your brain. They're actual brain sticking outside your skull, and they guide through these structures called the frontal eye fields, the rest of your focus circuitry. And it translates. So if you can maintain focus for X number of minutes, that's how long you can maintain cognitive focus. And it's okay if your mind flickers on and off. Have a training. If you're really interested in building these skills up, have a program for this. Now, if you're very excited about something or interested in it, you're naturally going to engage these frontal eye fields and the associated circuitry. So you don't have to do that, right? But that's the difference of caring or not caring. But we all know that in any career, there are going to be a lot of things that are not valuable to, or we think aren't valuable to us. We're going to be expected to listen and learn and pay attention. So you can build up your duration of focus. The other thing is learning to tolerate discomfort in that, because Steve and I have talked about this a lot before, being able to tolerate high levels of agitation in your nervous system and not react to that is so valuable. This is why I think things like ice baths, cold showers, those are teaching you, they're giving you a physically safe wall that you hit, and you're seeing if you can extend past it. I never liked the last reps of a set example. I think it's a stupid example because it doesn't translate to what we're talking about. When I'm lifting a weight or something, I'm in like real exertion and like really trying to hammer it out. That is not what it's like to try and endure something that's uncomfortable. It's a different kind of pain because it's more of like maximum force exerted. This is more about learning to be still in the face of agitation and internal stress. It's the thing I think that's going to translate best. Being able to stay situationally aware, stay awake, and that's about learning to be calm within the adrenaline response. And that's a gate to a lot of powerful things.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.